Look at these graphics though. Graphics are wild. I'm going to be taking a look at Black Myth Wukong on my 4080 Super. We've also got new Nvidia drivers, which has got support for the game, so we might maybe see a difference in performance there from what we've previously seen in the benchmark tool, like I said. I'm going to check out 4K first, so I've got the resolution set here. I think the only other thing I changed here was motion blur. I switched that off. I've got resolution scale set to 100%, so it'll be 4K native at first. Frame generation off. We have got ray tracing on with it set to the max, along with all the other graphics settings are set to cinematic, which are the max as well. Almost got him. Just keep spamming it. His health's real low. Pretty cool cinematic though. If we were to switch DLSS frame generation on there, we'd probably be above 60, which is still not amazing. It'd definitely be more playable. Obviously check that out in a little bit and see what the latency's like. Hoping to get to more of the open world game area.
Foul monkey! Taste my axe!
Pretty epic though. Huge axe, jeez. So I've made it into the open world area here, and as we thought, it looks about the same as the benchmark tool we saw. So this is going to be this is unplayable pretty much. There's going to be no way this, with these settings, is going to be a good experience like this. But at least we've seen it, we've tested it. I'll switch the settings in a second. But yeah, it seems like we're just sitting pretty much around that 15 FPS. Switch some frame generation, DLSS on, just so we can make it a little bit more playable. So if I go DLSS, I'll switch frame generation on, and I'll put DLSS to quality, so you can see that there, DLSS quality, and I'll keep all the graphics settings as they were. So we've still got everything maxed with ray tracing on. This obviously straight away looks a lot better, 50 FPS. Have a little play around, see if I can see what it feels like, see what it looks like. Seems a little bit better than what we were getting in the benchmark tool, because it was more like 40, 45, wasn't it, if I remember? Could be wrong. Definitely feeling a little bit of latency when I'm looking around. But obviously the FPS was quite low, 15 FPS, so natively you're not really recommended to switch frame generation on in that scenario. And you do potentially run the risk of having latency. But getting an average of 52, which isn't, you know, definitely closer to that 60 FPS. It's not horrendous. Somewhat playable now. Still getting big stutters though. Look at that. In the frame time, 0.1% low of 16. Has brought our VRAM down a little bit as well. I've seen GPUs fluctuate quite a bit there though. Down to the 80%. 75% there. I've switched ray tracing off now, so I'm still at 4K, but you can see I've got ray tracing switched off there, still got the graphics settings set to cinematic. I'll play for a little bit like this. Doesn't look like it's really given us much FPS. More, I suppose it's about doubled it. It's fairly similar really to the benchmark tool we saw, isn't it? Don't think it's really too much different. I was hoping maybe the driver update might maybe make things a little bit better, but I don't really think it's done much in terms of that. It's fairly similar, 31. Average of 34. 0.1% low though doesn't look too bad. 23, it's not terrible. Still seeing the frame time look pretty choppy, but it doesn't seem to have any of those huge spikes in frame time that we had with ray tracing on. I think with frame generation on, it seemed like when it was at its worst for that, we had like really big stutters and noticeable stutters when I was playing. I'm going to check it with the graphic. I'm going to drop the graphics preset a little bit. If I just drop it to very high, see how much that improves things. Yeah, it obviously does a little bit. It's not game changing though, is it? That's given us what, maybe at best maybe 10 FPS it's given us there. Because we had kind of 31, 32, didn't we? What I'm going to do, I'm going to switch the graphics settings back to cinematic and then check it out with DLSS. Because with these settings, I would guess we'll be over 60, just because I want to do a scenario in which we can get over 60, because I know a lot of people obviously want to play at that. Oh, there it is. This is so much better immediately, jeez. It's getting a bit used to playing at like 30 FPS then. Oh, I forgot what 60 feels like. Oh, we're sitting here at 80, so... drops down to in the 60s there. Look at that frame time as well, it looks so much nicer. Hasn't changed much on the... thought maybe we'd see VRAM go up a little bit, switching frame generation on. It is up a little bit, but it's not that much, is it? Normally you see at least a gig. Even GPU power hasn't really changed too much, still sitting close to 300. I think even overall though, it's not too bad on the CPU, the game overall. Being pretty low for that. It's these big guys. I just try and go all out and it just always goes terribly wrong. I'm just gonna maybe freeze one. Hey, that worked. I've switched to 1440p now, so you can see I've changed the resolution here. We've got 2560 by 1440. At first, I'm going to check it out at native 1440p with the graphics fully maxed, so we can get an idea of the performance. So I've got frame generation DLSS off, resolution scale set to 100%, and then we've got full ray tracing on. It's maxed out, so at very high, and then the rest is cinematic. And hopefully with a bit of luck, we get quite a bit better performance than what we had. We had about half this, didn't we? 15 FPS at 4K with these same settings. So it's doubled our performance by switching to 1440p. So still not amazing, obviously, but definitely better than 4K. Probably most people, I should imagine, are not going to want to play with this kind of FPS either. I'm not seeing FPS fluctuate too badly. Still getting quite a choppy frame time though. There was also an enemy somewhere around here that you could... You went down to pick like mushrooms like that and an enemy appeared, but I can't remember where it was. I can hear something. Oh. Didn't see him. Right, so I'm going to take a look with DLSS on now, so I'll switch that on there. We'll switch it down to quality. And I'll switch frame generation on. Shouldn't need to do a restart on this. It'll only need to restart if I switch ray tracing off, but I'll leave that on for now. And then I'll check that natively at 1440p with ray tracing off after this. Immediately so much better though, almost hitting between 90 and 100. We'll see how it goes. When you go from 30 to 90, you really do appreciate the difference. So much nicer. Not noticing any... The latency feels better than 4K for me as well. Obviously, because we were at 30. Which I think actually is the threshold Nvidia give for frame generation. You want about 30 FPS at native or above. Otherwise, you do run the risk of having loads of latency. At 4K, we had... What did we have? 15, so... You would expect to maybe see some latency, which we did feel a little bit. It feels a lot better. So I have noticed here too, GPU power isn't really too much different to what we had at native. Dips down a little bit to 275 we saw there, which is a little bit lower, but overall average is probably fairly similar. Even VRAM as well is not too different. Because I think you do bring that down a little bit by using the upscaling, but then using frame generation, that often increases VRAM a little bit as well, so I think it balances out. I'm still at 1440p, but I'm going to take a look with ray tracing switched off. So 1440p native, no DLSS or frame generation, and you can see here ray tracing switched off. I was mainly interested to see if we could break 60. It just looks like just back there we were, but we're now dipping under, back down under 50. So that's a real disappointment. We can't even get 60. Even with ray tracing off, just cinematic settings, still struggles. Pretty disappointing, that. Definitely not a huge difference in terms of FPS by switching off. I guess we're gaining about 20 FPS probably on average here, switching ray tracing off. Normally you'd expect a little more than that. I know we do have Lumen in Unreal Engine 5 here, so I don't think it's so heavy when you switch that on and off. Because normally in a lot of games it'd be more like 40 FPS difference, which would definitely obviously get us over 60. Still got the average of 53 there, just about holding the 50. I'm going to try and... There's a big stutter then. Well, that worked out right, didn't it? Look at the frame time then. Oh my god, I didn't... It is not liking this. Holy moly, look at this. It's this bit right here. Something happens where it is like absolutely, it is just not, it is not like that at all. Yeah, look there, right there. Catch the spot just right. Look at that. What the hell? GPU usage just goes down to 76%. That's not good, is it? I've switched to 1080p to see the performance there. You can see under resolution here we've got 1920 by 1080. Graphics settings wise, we'll be at 1080p native, so we've got 100% resolution. And then we've got ray tracing on and all the graphics maxed out again. I'm hoping to try and hit 60 FPS here, but it looks like we're not going to be able to hit that even at 1080p. What? I thought we might, but maybe that has probably been a bit too ambitious because we were at like 30 FPS at 1440p with these settings at native. That's crazy though. Breaking 50 here, but 48, 49 average. There's something, so I noticed something at 1440p as well. I know I mentioned about the image quality. There seems like there is some weirdness going on with the anti-aliasing on this game. I can't really put my finger on it, but it just looks, I don't know, like at 1080p here, it looks rough. At 4K, I feel like you didn't really notice it so badly, because often at 4K you don't really notice anti-aliasing, the effect of it so much, but at 1080p here, I was seeing some articles online of people saying they had similar issue, and it just looked really weird. Down to even 30. Oh, I can't believe how low it is, though. Down to even 39 FPS. That's crazy. You'd probably, I think, if we switch ray tracing off, might just about break 60. Which at native resolutions is pretty crazy. Like, we can't even hit 60 at 1080p. Yet again as well, this power barely come down by dropping the resolution. Even VRAM too. Ever so slightly down. I've switched ray tracing off at 1080p, so I'm going to take a look at performance there. I'm desperate to try and find a settings at native resolution where we can get over 60, and it looks like I've cracked it. 1080p native with ray tracing off, and that's your 60. Well, that's your 80 there. Oh god, no. Look at that stuttering. Down to the 68. Oh no, don't do this to me. Don't dip under 60. 67, it's getting close. But I think looks like we'll probably be alright, but that's nuts. That is what it takes to get above 60. Can't imagine most people probably are not running this on a 4080 Super 1080p. Imagine most people it's probably going to be 1440p, so gonna have to run with a mixture of either ray tracing on with upscaling or ray tracing off. If you've enjoyed this video, click one of the videos on the screen now to see me testing more GPUs, and I'll catch you next time.